Wife's coworker bought her a special gift that proved their affair. I got them both fired from the hospital and kicked her out. Hey there, guys. I'm going to need some advice on a situation I'm going through in my marriage. I, 29M, have been married to my wife, 30F, for 7 years, and we have a daughter who is 5 years old. Depending on who you ask, some would say that we got married young. I know I heard a lot of that while we planned the wedding. The thing is, we have known each other since late in high school, so I feel like we had enough time to get to know each other to the point where I could confidently propose. We were both relatively mature people for our ages when we were younger. She knew she wanted to go to medical school and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. It's part of why I felt we were meant for each other. My HVAC business was already doing really well before I turned 20, so by the time she was ready to go to med school, I was able to support her. I suppose our younger selves would be very happy with where we are well over a decade since we first met. Well, career-wise at least. Because some things have happened that make me wonder whether there were some red flags that I happened to miss, or whether people just want what they want regardless of how much you care and how much effort you put in. I've never put a foot wrong when it comes to my wife. We pretty much grew into adulthood side by side, so you can't fault me for thinking that I know her to the fullest. Enough with the yapping. Let me try and cut to the chase. As I've said, my wife went to medical school. She did great there, and now she's a general practitioner, which is awesome. I've really never been prouder of anyone, because I watched her graduate high school, then graduate from university twice. I will admit that I sometimes feared that I'd feel inferior with a high-achieving wife, but I'm doing fantastic for myself. I didn't go to college, but that was because I knew it would be a waste of my time. Instead, I used those same 4 years to apply the throttle on some new enterprises I was trying to start, like a detailing business, and my hard work paid off. So yeah, I make a lot and that surely helps me feel good about myself. Do I regret not going to college, even now? Nope. So, my wife, the doctor. Obviously, she works at a hospital, and as expected, she has colleagues whom she's friends with and some whom she steps away from being enemies with. Typical workplace drama, whether you work in a retail store or a tech company. The thing is, it became a bit disconcerting to me when a certain name started to pop up a lot more than the other coworkers that I heard about quite often. Let's call the guy Devin. If you've ever heard of the stupid concept of work husbands, that's what Devin started to sound like to me. Anytime something happens at work while she is at lunch, she always happens to be eating lunch with Devin. She's scared of walking to her car when leaving work late at night, who is there to save the day and accompany her? Devin, of course. There was even a really annoying day when she started to gush about Devin's 2 cats and Chihuahua, which he couldn't stop showing her photos of. At this point, I obviously became very cautious of Devin. I think any man would. After all, it seemed like Devin was interested in her with how much he seemed to be around her. I joked around with her one day, with an ulterior motive, asking whether Devin knew she was married. She said he did, and after a brief pause, she reassured me that I didn't need to worry about him one bit. That he's basically her brother. This didn't really convince me, and it was made worse because I hate hearing sentences including the phrase "like a brother to me," but I decided to let it go at that moment because I didn't have anything solid beyond him coming up a lot, to base strong suspicions on. Now, before I go into what happens next, I need to give you a little bit of background on the sexual side of my relationship with my wife. I've never been the kind of guy who needs to have 5 times a week. Nah, once or twice in 2 weeks fills, or should I say empties, the tank for me. The best part was that this worked perfectly for my wife too. She isn't a high libido kind of woman, so we had a really harmonious life in the early stages of our marriage. Unfortunately, almost out of nowhere, her interest in sex just died. We spoke about it and she blamed hormones, stress, the weather, upcoming exams, her diet, and so on. And with each thing we tried to fix, nothing changed in the end. I never blamed my wife for this, but honestly, even though I could cope with sex twice a month, it started to become hard on me. I seriously considered looking outside my marriage, but I never came close to acting on such considerations. Now, here's where that comes in.